some coaching moves today that Coach McDermott had to square away and make official, including some additions. But I think the Leslie Frazier decision to take a year off from coaching is probably what looms the largest. Maybe if you could just shed some light on that for the listeners.
Yeah, obviously, we love Coach, and, he let us know. This past week is, before Indy, is the time we, tell the coaches and staff, just get away. It's been a long year, because you don't stop after the season. You keep going in your process. So it's just like you want to be fresh when you get here. And so during the week off, Coach reached out and we talked through some things. And ultimately, he didn't want to retire. He made that clear. But just wanted to take step back, take a year off. And so that's kind of where it's at. Well, fortunately for us, Sean's a defensive head coach, so it's not the other side of the ball. And, we got a lot of good minds, in-house. And so I think we'll look there first, and got a lot of good people. And so it's just, it's new, out there in the world. But we've been talking about it, the last few days.
What are you, what are the constraints that the league puts on you? Certainly you have to go through a process because coordinators now are subject to the Rooney Rule and all of that. So will you have, I guess Leslie will remain the defensive coordinator even though he's going to take a year off, and you just kind of fill in with in-house guys, or have you not gotten to that point yet?
Yeah, we'll unless you're definitely going to fill that role with a different name, which we're not there yet at this point. You wouldn't necessarily have to interview. So we'll look internally again. As I started out, Sean, I've been around him as a defensive coordinator in my time in Carolina. Obviously, he was in Philly before that. So it's on that side of the ball, and we feel we got a lot of good people in that defensive staff room. We've added Joe Dana and Al Holcomb this year to that group. Al's been a defensive coordinator before. Really like being around Joe. The ball we've talked early on. So adding him to the group of Eric Washington and Bobby Babich and John Butler and that crew. So we'll look internally, and if we decide that it's something that we want to fill with a position, given someone that title, then yes, you would go through the interview process.
Yeah, and a guy like Al could pick up the slack based on his history. You would think, like if that's the decision that you guys made, that would make a lot of sense. I would think. Yeah. Let's get to the business that you got to take care of here. At your season wrap-up press conference in late January, you said in order to get cap compliant, you'll have to make moves. So I would assume that includes tough decisions like roster cuts, contract restructures, and then you got all the free agents coming off your books here in 2023. If you had to make a pie chart for us, what part of those avenues that you can take would make up the biggest part of the pie chart, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, probably more restructuring than outright releases.
Okay.
Not to say no one would be released, but we are definitely looking at everything. We've got our plan kind of laid out, working through that, with certain players' representatives and things like that. But we're definitely in that 20 range of being over. So we've got until March 15th to get that in compliance, and then obviously we got to create money to be able to add some players back and then sign your draft picks and all the above. So working through that right now, and those conversations will continue between now and the start of the league year. So
when this as this offseason rolls along, your philosophy, I guess, from what got you to this point to being this contender every year, where you're in the conversation, and once again you're going to be this year, even though you can't come up and you fall short on a game or two games or whatever, the philosophy really doesn't change. I mean, you've got it going on. You just got to try and do what you're doing better than you did last time, right?
Yeah, you're always tweaking it. It starts with quarterback. We know we have a quarterback, and so what positions do you feel like, hey, we didn't get enough production there? What's our answer? Is this filling in with a draft choice? Do we have a young player that we feel is ready to ascend? Is it we need to go out and kind of fill this in free agency? Maybe it's a combo. Maybe you bring in competition in free agency, but you look to add in the draft as well. So we're looking at all those things, and you are constantly trying to tweak and just find that right combination. And some of it's people too. When you're building a team, it's not robots. These are people and how they gel together and how they work together, and the whole mesh part. So that will be a big part of how we every year's a new year. We talk about that. Every team's a new team, and so finding the right fits on the field and in our locker room is goal number one.
As far as the fans are concerned, the names that keep coming up that they're interested in hearing about is Edmunds and Poyer, obviously, two of your bigger free agent guys. Where are we there? Have we had preliminary talks? I know you guys every offseason when you have free agents say, here's the value we can set for you guys. If you feel you can do better, good luck to you. And if you want to come back, we're here. Where are you in that whole process with those two guys in particular?
Yeah, we'll have dialogue with those guys. I don't want to get into how deep we are with either, but yes, that we will have dialogue. If we haven't already with their reps and spoke to those guys at the end of the season, and they know we love them and respect them and appreciate them. And this is the business part. It's not it's not scholarships. It's not college where you can say, yeah, I'll give you another year of a scholarship. That would be easy. You don't want to lose good players. That's not the goal. You want to keep as many as you can, but we do have to fit it into that pie you were talking about earlier. And so, it won't be easy, but we'll look and see what ways we can keep one or both. And if not, if we can't keep either one of them, we'll look in other ways to refill those voids.
One of the things that not only that you have players that you think can ascend now, but you also have guys that contracts are up, and you've got. You look at the safety position, you've got like one guy.
Yeah.
Right. So they're also, because of the way the contracts end or start, or the length of they all end at the same time, or some of them do, and then you've got question marks like DeMar.
Yeah.
How do you attack those, knowing Saffold and the guards and Butker and Bates and these guys that are at the end of their contract? You got to. You don't have enough guys, right? At this point, it's just it's that time of year, right?
Yep,
where you're looking around and going, God, we couldn't do it today if we had to line up.
No, we couldn't.
How do you attack that, and how urgent is that? Given the fact that you got all this other stuff going on.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're filling it with guys, not just to, hey, we got it, but it's really not the answer. You want to make sure you're trying to find the right answers, and it's not necessarily the final answer, but it's at least, hey, this guy can come in and compete, with whoever for safety, or this guy can compete at guard, mentioning Roger Saffold's contract expiring as well. So we'll look at all those. Again, you're hearing about it right now where guys are being released. Other teams are trying to get under the cap. Yeah. So we'll pay attention to those names, guys that are being released. Obviously, we'll pay attention. We've been looking at upcoming free agents and some of those guys, and then here we're also studying guys that will be available in the draft. At the various rounds. So we'll kind of look at all those. If areas that are deeper in the draft, maybe you'll hold off a little bit and say, hey, I think we can get. If we go, man, that's a thin position in the draft, we probably should see if we can shore up at least a guy that can compete for it. And if you draft over him, so be it.
Speaking of offensive line, a lot of your offensive line contracts over the years have been of the one-year variety for whatever your philosophical approach is to that. Fine, whatever. But has your salary cap situation almost kind of, I don't want to say pushed you, because you can always work the numbers a certain way, but is it almost prudent to keep doing that in light of your tight cap situation right now, the one-year kind of deal, so you're not tied up for years on end?
Yeah, we have Mitch and Dion are our big, spending, areas. You can't do it across the board. Mm-hmm. Ryan Bates last year, through the restricted tag, we got him. So we've got a few that are under longer deals, and Spencer Brown, a draft pick. Unless you draft a guy, it's hard to have, a whole line of all guys under 3 and 4 year deals. So yeah, we have had to fill those guard roles a little bit with 1 year deals or 2 year deals. And if we found the right guy that we could work within the cap, that's a 2 year, 3 year, I'd love it, because it gives me a little peace.
Less work for you to do the next year.
But and you want continuity. You're not trying to shuffle it out, but sometimes what we find too is we're able to get a player on a lesser deal who doesn't want to be locked up at a lower number for multiple years. They're willing to do it for one, but they're not willing to do it for 2 or 3 because they want to up their value and go back to the market. And if we can find a depressed asset that we think is better than that market, those are the kind of values you look to try and fill spots.
Gotcha. So early returns on this combine, this draft class, positions you think might be thick or thin, as we say?
Yeah, it's still early in the process. I do think there are some pass rushers this year. Again, I think the DBs and receivers, it feels like the more and more years of 7-on-7s and all that, it feels like there's more and more guys, at those positions. I think there's some tight ends out there. I do, so I think there's going to be some positions that we can add some players. There's O-line, D-line too. I think it's a good. I don't know if there's a lot of the marquee names at the top, of the draft. There's a few, but I think there's definitely some depth in the draft at positions that we could definitely use.
So if you're and a lot of people have been trumpeting the tight end class being really, really strong, like a larger number than usual, and all these draft guys top 50s and stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you think the tight end class could be good enough from a pass catching perspective where, let's just say, a team out there is in the market for a receiver, but the value doesn't line up, but there's a tight end option, and it's like, that guy's just as good as getting this guy who we think could have been a plug-and-play 2 receiver. I mean, it seems like the tight ends are almost getting to a point where their playmaking skills are comparable.
Yeah. No, you're looking for mismatches out there. You really are. And so you're trying to, does the tight end, is he just a receiver only and they know it? If so, they're probably going to play him like a receiver. But if you can find those guys that are not a throwaway in the run game, can put their hand in the dirt and at least, crack neutral, then maybe you get them into base and you can throw it off of that, or good enough to, if they want to play you in nickel, if you got 2 tight ends in the game, you're in 12, that you can run the ball. All right, you want to play us in nickel, we're going to try and run it. So I do think there's some tight ends out there, whether it's free agency or the draft, that can give you that flexibility to add, and that's what it's not that, hey, you got to go fill this receiver. We're looking for positions on offense beyond the O-line, that where can we add a mismatch type player, and that's where we went in and tried to find a James Cook last year. We added Hines, and just guys that you can do different pieces with that can be a mismatch from your standard, just a receiver,
Gotcha.
Just a Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, whoever else.
How do you anticipate getting to that point in this free agent market, to the point where you can take whatever the position the guy is in the draft, you can be able to take the best player available? I mean, that's always the goal, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it becomes it's easier or more difficult as each year combines. How about this year? It might be a little more difficult this year than it was perhaps last year, and maybe it's because of the Vaughn's contract that you didn't know we were going to do that, and then it was like, gosh, maybe we should.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
So, stuff like that happens. It gets dropped into your lap. You got to take that opportunity to get a guy like Von Miller, knowing that down the road for the next 3 years, it's going to be more difficult to get to that point on draft day to take the best pro. The best guy's going to be a best pro in that draft, whatever position.
It is a balance, and you're right. It is hard because we are a little bit top-heavy. We are paying Josh on that contract, and adding, we redid Diggs last year, and then adding a Von Miller. But you're right. Just, you saw what Von brought to our team and to our pass rush and our defense, and he was doing exactly what we thought he would do for us, and unfortunately, got rolled into in Detroit there on Thanksgiving. But he's doing well in his rehab, and look forward to getting a healthy Von Miller back. Those guys don't grow on trees.
Right.
But yeah, it does. The more top heavy you are, Steve, it does make it hard to fill all the spots in free agency. In the perfect world, my goal is always to fill as many needs as you can in free agency, so you can just go draft those best players and grow. Because sometimes as rookies, they're adjusting to life, and even though they have the skill set ready, there's so many things from that transition. You're not quite ready to put them out there as a starter. Maybe that they become a key backup. So we're going to need young guys to step up and play, because to your point, we are a little top heavy, and it's hard to always have the depth when you have the salaries where we have some of them.
Last one for me, Brandon. We kind of look at the Chiefs because they're a couple of years ahead of you guys in their build compared to yours, and we saw them kind of rebuild their offensive line when Mahomes was getting under duress in that Super Bowl. They kind of threw all their money there. They turn over their receiving core this year. And then I think the most interesting thing was they had to take a lot of their draft class and put them on the field because of some of those maneuvers that they've had to make. I know Coach is all about earning it, and I totally respect it. But do you think that the team is maybe getting to a point where those young players are going to have to get on the field maybe sooner than we've seen in the recent past.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where it's the onus. I look right in the mirror. It comes back to me. I've got to make sure that myself and our personnel staff get guys that can help us immediately, whether it's a starter or a key role player, key contributor. And again, those guys in last year's class, we're probably one of the slower teams to put them out there. To what your point,
yeah.
we're just when you got a team that you feel is very good, you want to make sure you just know. And sometimes until you get them out there in moments, you don't know.
Yeah.
But we are going to count on these last couple draft classes that are going into years 2 and years 3, and then the other guys on the team. But yeah, this upcoming draft class, we're going to count on these guys too to help us in some form or fashion.
Last one. Give us an idea. What's your day going to be like day to day here? You're here through Saturday, right? I mean,
I don't know if we have enough time for that.
They had. I mean, I know that most of the guys, and we see all these old guys that we know and stuff. They're all tied up until like 11 at night because you're talking to kids, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so is that kind of the way it goes? And workouts start at like 3 o'clock or something?
Yeah, they keep adjusting the schedule around, but it's right now. Used to be it was interviews at night, and then they moved a lot of them to the morning, and then but they've bounced them around. So like tonight, we had them last night. We have them again tonight, and then starting tomorrow, we have them morning and night. And then Thursday, you got to squeeze in morning interviews, workouts during the day, and then night interviews again. So we got some packed days. The workouts are not as late as they were. They've moved them back up, which I think is better for the kids.
So how many are you allowed? How many are you going to see? That kind of thing.
45. We get 45.
45 guys.
45 guys for like a 18 to 20 minute interview schedule. So
they have like a Gestapo, kind of guys like, oh, your time's up, kind of guy.
Well, every team has
the air horn, isn't it? Do they still use the air horn?
They have air horns. They're on TVs, but we have runners that go wait. We get their dance card, is what we call it, and if we're taking a guy from the Commanders or something like that, we have someone waiting to escort them from that room into ours, and then when they leave ours, somebody from wherever team is waiting on them, picks them and takes them up. So it's a good little process.
Thanks, man. Enjoy the week. Thanks for coming on with us.
Always good, guys. Good to see
luck
you.
getting your work done, Brandon.
I appreciate you guys.